Broadcasting from Chicago, across North America and beyond, it's Carl and Crew.
Come as you are and experience God. Overcome what seems impossible and live as you never imagined.
Start your morning with a laugh.
Cold spaghetti's great.
Okay.
I disagree.
No,
I guess not.
No,
I guess,
certainly it
I
is
guess
not.
no. Okay. Well, man, I'm going back to my bachelor days, I guess. I thought cold spaghetti was universally loved.
I've never been known for like high levels of coordination. That's just, and it feels like
I've never been known for high levels of coordination.
Delivering the truth daily.
if it were possible to have every worldly gain available and you're forfeiting your soul, there's no amount of gain that would make it worth it.
Our own way never, ever works because it's apart from the life source, which is God.
For me, growing up, love was always conditional and can be taken from you. Christ's love can't. And he went to the cross with my mind and my heart that night.
Now from the Call of Hope Studios, this is Carl and Crew.
All right, let's make biblical chivalry really practical here. Let's make biblical chivalry really practical, and we can do this. Paul did it. Jesus did it. We can do it. Here we go. This is how I'm going to do it. Jonathan, if you're cold, what do?
I usually try to grab a jacket. If I'm outside already, I guess I grin and bear it.
Okay. But you try to get a jacket
Get a
on
jacket.
or something to warm you or something,
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
If you're hungry, what do, Jonathan?
I go to the fridge and I make a sandwich.
Okay. If you're thirsty, what do, Jonathan?
I get some water.
You get some water.
A swig of water.
If you've got a question that you need answered, what do, Jonathan?
I usually find someone I can ask or AI.
Fair.
That's honest, right?
Okay. Here's the point. See how practical this is? Look at this. This is what Paul says in Ephesians 5. So he says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of water with the word, so that he might present the church to himself in splendor, without spot or wrinkle or any such thing, that she might be holy and without blemish. Speaking of the church right there, right? Paul's just laying it out. This is how it works. In the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Verse 29 of Ephesians 5. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church. Okay, how practical is this, guys?
So I guess you could fill in Jonathan's bride for all of the questions that you just asked.
Yes.
If she's hungry,
Go get her something to eat.
feed her.
Yep,
If she's thirsty, get her a glass of water.
that's right.
If she is cold,
Get her a blanket or a coat.
yes. But it goes deeper than that. If she has something on her heart,
Listen.
oh, good. You're doing good, Jonathan. You're doing good. You didn't even need Allie's help there.
Nope.
If she is crying,
Ask her what's wrong.
wow, you're knocking this out of the park, Jonathan. Why was Paul so simplistic with illustrating this? Why, Allie?
Well, because the things that Jonathan asked after like the third question, it was so obvious. It was like, okay, where is this going? It's very intuitive. The things that you do to take care of your own body.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thirsty, you get a drink of water. And I think in the same way, it should be as intuitive to care for, to serve your bride.
Yeah, and what's really cool about Paul's words are, if you just read it and then you just go okay, and I'll read it again. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church. Being a chivalrous, godly, biblical man is as practical as responding to the needs of our bride in any given moment.
Yeah.
Boom!
It's that simple. It's that simple. And the response is great. I had an opportunity a couple nights ago. We were talking about, because we have a little daughter on the way, a second child, and we were kind of coming up with a little bit of a game plan, who's going to take care of what and things like that. And she said, "What do you need after I give birth?" And I said, "Well, I'm not really a consideration right now." It was like, you need to be the one taken care of, and our kids need to be the ones taken care of. I was like, "Don't worry about me." And she started crying. And she was like, "I just didn't even think of that." She said, "Thank you so much." And I don't say that to be like, look at Jonathan, he's a great guy. No, I say that to say it's really simple.
It's low-hanging fruit.
It's just low-hanging fruit, but it meant so much to her that there was just going to be a season where she gets to be taken care of, and I've got what I can do to help her. And it was simple, but it made all the world of difference. And I think that we overcomplicate things sometimes to say, oh, this is... I'm going to have to work forever, and I'm never going to be able to sit down again if I have to be a chivalrous man. And it's like, no, just do a thing here and there, and love your wife and let her know that you're thinking about her and that you care for her. And it doesn't have to be more than that every single day, and she's going to love it.
Can I throw in a curveball just because?
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is not, this is not in response to Jonathan's statement. This is simply a curveball that I'm thinking of. Is it possible for women to demand too much?
It's a good question.
Okay, I'm going to tackle that one. I think a man can feel sometimes like there's too much desired here.
Mm-hmm.
My firm biblical conviction is, if you're feeling like there is something being asked of you over here that feels like too much, it's probably the result of something being unattended over here that was never dealt with.
Okay, give me a for example.
Oh, boy. Well, okay, I'll be vulnerable here. There have been times when I felt like, boy, maybe the needs of my bride in a season feel like a lot, but I've found out, without getting into, nothing's coming to mind right now except general being married for 39 years as of here, a week ago? Last Saturday? Yeah. So 39 years. Got 40 coming up. Hard to believe, by the way. But I've found, let me gather my heart here. I've found, like, at times when I feel like, oh boy, being a husband is really hard, or there might be an ask that feels like too much. If you whittle it down, there's usually, it's a counseling term, the presenting issue isn't often the issue.
Sure.
And I found that there's a place where she needs to be heard, and it's usually that. There's a concern of a heart that my bride needs her husband to hear her to the bottom, that when that gets resolved, all this other stuff just fades away. That's my experience.
Yeah.
That's my experience. And to be candid with you, my bride asks for so little relative to things in life.
Sure. And I asked that question because I do think sometimes men feel like, wow, like, is she supposed to do anything for me? We had someone who texted yesterday, and they had a list of things that they thought a chivalrous man should be doing, and it was pretty extensive. I mean, it was a really long list, and you go, okay, I'm for it, but do men ever feel like this is kind of a lot? Like, what you don't want to say, what about me? I've got two kids. My daughter's almost 17. My son's 13. And she had a laundry that she was going to carry down the stairs. And so she says to her brother, who is now past her in height and is bigger and stronger, she goes, why don't you be a strong man of God and carry this load of laundry down the stairs for me? And he said, without missing a beat, why don't you be a strong Proverbs 31 woman and carry it yourself?
Oh, my goodness.
Well, okay.
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh.
And so it was like this standoff of both of them calling each other to the high ground of feminine or masculine strength. And I thought, I don't know who wins here. Like, do men ever feel like, you Proverbs 31 woman, I think you got it.
That's a hilarious comment, by the way.
I think there's because I think Carl's right. I think that there is a sense of, yes, you're allowed to, like, men shouldn't be the only one in the relationship listening. You should also speak your heart, and your wife or your spouse should listen to each other. Husbands listen to your wives listen to your husbands. Like, I think that is understandable as well. I've had moments where, I've been really burnt out after a day, and my wife asked for something, and I looked over at her and I said, you know what? Right now I'm feeling so physically drained. I'm so tired. Is it okay that I don't do this right now? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you need? Like, I think it's okay to say, like, there are moments where you may need something and it's okay to ask for what you need. But I think as a general sense, like, take care of your wives and do some things for her, show her that you love her. I think you should always be doing something every day that shows her that you love her.
Yeah, there are exceptions to this rule that I'm going to give you, because there are. Look, is it possible that there is a wife who is so in the ditch spiritually from some of her own choices that are just not healthy, or family of origin issues or styles of relating that are really not healthy?
Sure, it is for everybody.
Absolutely. And we had a guest earlier this week, I forget who it was, who said, yeah, there's exceptions. I forget who it was, but I digress. Here's the point. I am absolutely convinced that Scripture indicates the biggest problem for Adam is that passivity got him into a blame game, and it was very costly. And in one fell swoop, one sentence, he says, this woman you gave me. Mm-hmm. So what do we find post-garden experience? There's a call to this restoration within a broken and fallen world. And this is my contention. I believe it's solidly biblical. You can look at Ephesians 5:22 and go, wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. But I think men, because submission as to the Lord is one thing, but a husband who loves his wife as Christ loved the church, I think a man that initiates in that way, which is a high standard, and we can't hit it perfectly, but a man that initiates in that way is going to have a response from a woman that will blow your mind. I really believe that. Now, are there exceptions? Yes, because I get some men yelling at the radio going, you don't know. Well, all I'm going to say is this. Check your own heart, men. And if you're not genuinely loving your wife as Christ loved the church, maybe you need to slow the roll. And I mean, ask that of yourself. And it's way more than I go to work, I put bread on the table, I do this, I do that. No, has her heart been heard to the bottom? Does she feel like she's got a man who's got her back on some issues, maybe with kids? When you really, the list of things that you could really let the Lord search your heart on are myriad. But I think my contention is, you get a man that loves his wife as Christ loved the church, it will uncork a woman to support, respect, love, encourage. I really believe that. That's my contention, especially a Godward woman. Is a man solely responsible for the spiritual trajectory of his wife? No. But is he a massive contributor to helping her feel secure, and building a context where she can grow like a beautiful flower, yeah, a man is responsible for that.
You're listening to Curl and Crew on Moody Radio.
Ephesians 5 and every other text we find about a man shall leave his father and mother, cleave to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. And the call on the man is love your wife as Christ loved the church. And my bold conviction is when men initiate toward their wives in a Christ-sacrificing manner, nourishing, caring, there's another word in here, let me grab it, cherishing, okay? Don't want to lose that one. Cherishing? I mean, men, let me talk to you for a moment. We're good hunters. We started dating that girl that you're married to. Man, you can put on the dog. You can put on the dog.
Is that an expression?
What is that?
Yeah, well, it means this. You can flat, because men are great. Whether you have any hunting experience or not, men, listen to me. You're good hunters. Even the quiet dudes, they know how to angle in there. It's like, wow. That is pleasing to my eyes. I've got to get alongside that little girl, and that is, woo, yes, sirree, Bob. That is God's will for my life. And what a man does is, even the quietest, most uncreative dudes will come up with creative ideas to get near that woman, to have a conversation with that woman and all that. But what's amazing is that cherishing, that the reason Paul says, continue to nourish and cherish, this is how a man moves toward a woman, is because he knew we were good hunters. And we sometimes think, it's the old line, honey, do you love me? Asks her husband. Yeah, I told you 25 years ago I love you. If anything would have changed, I'll tell you. I mean, that's a funny thing, but
right.
But that can often be very characteristic of a man. And because we know how to go get them, we're good hunters. But boy, when we bring them home, it's not like a deer over the shoulders here, guys. It's like we got to care for. These are living and breathing beings of God, these women are, and it requires intentionality and ongoing creativity.
Yeah.
Ongoing.
Say the same restaurant for 30 years.
What's that?
Only going to the same restaurant for 30 years ain't going to cut it.
I mean,
you can have that restaurant in there. It can't be the only thing you go and do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just there's a creative intentionality, and the word is intentionality, because, by the way, the model here is Jesus loved the church. Was he intentional toward the church?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. Was he sacrificial toward the church?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, he laid down his life, and at Pentecost, everything came together, and these guys are going, my goodness, he poured himself out for us. We're going to pour ourselves out for him. I really believe men are initiators, women are responders. And is it 100% true that a woman will always respond? No. I want to say it again. Are some women so derailed with substitute gods and crazy junk or whatever that they can't respond rightly, even to the greatest initiating man? There are occasions where that is true, but I think the lion's share, if you're married to a woman who's been transformed by the blood of Jesus and she loves Jesus, you initiate men toward that woman in a chivalrous way. Katie barred the door. I'm telling you, she's going to bloom like a flower, man, in the spring. You can't get me off that one. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I've lived it.
And you've got agreement. We're getting
Really?
some feedback coming in. 0393 texted in. It says, a man as the head of his household has so much influence, and should he choose to wield that influence in a godly way, he will have a wife that is a true blessing to him and experience a love and respect he never thought possible. And then he goes on to talk about what happens when you wield that selfishly and the impact negatively that can have on a bride. So some agreement there. What else is coming in? Another person just mentioned that sometimes this can get confusing when both people are working outside the home.
Oh, that's a great one, Allie.
Yeah, and it's, and I do think that sometimes the conversations can default to when the husband comes home after a long day's work, wives, you need to, and I've heard that a lot for many, many years and thought the same thing. Well, the wife might not even be, she might be the last one coming home. And so I do think that there's sometimes some stereotypes that we default to that can muddy the waters a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, this gets into a whole Pandora's box of provider versus nurture and all that. I do believe a man needs to have a level of provision, and provision is not just monetary. This is where we get a little wonky, because we live in a culture today where, I mean, we live in Chicagoland. My goodness, cost of living. Does some homes, just to make things meet in the middle financially, does it sometimes put a woman out into the marketplace? Absolutely. But that doesn't preclude a man's need and calling to still love his wife as Christ loved the church.
Mm-hmm. Sure. 2101, a gentleman texted in, the times when it bothered me, back to our original conversation, we were talking about how this hits you. He says, when I didn't feel appreciated, when there's no thank you or anything, it's like it's demanded of you. And then he gave an example of a time when, he kind of went out of his way to both do something with his son, but also the grass needed to be mowed. And so at great effort, he did both. And sometimes it can feel like those sacrifices are overlooked. Though I do think the thank you and the appreciation goes a long way when you're and not taking for granted that your spouse is, well, of course, my husband's going to serve me because that's what he's called to do. Ladies, we definitely, I think, can do a better job of showing our care and appreciation, and not just that this is a given or an expectation.
Yeah, and what my bride and I would say right along those lines, Allie, is what a great woman can do is when you see a man taking any hint of initiative to love you as Christ loved the church, cheer for it. Look at it and cheer for it. And don't in your mind go, well, it's about time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good discussion. Boy, we got after it here, didn't we?
Yeah, we went a little long. That's okay.
We did.
Yeah, that's okay.
Hang on.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus.
God longs for us today to seek Him and ask Him to move in ways that we never could.
You're listening to Carl and Crew.
Some of you may have a lot of different emotions going off right now. But I think I want to speak to you men still. I'm going to go after this. I'm going to hit it hard here. Men, I want you to hear my heart right now. A lot of us look at our wives' actions toward us. This is what I want to tell you. Biblical men, Godward men, ask the question first, could that action actually be a reaction to something that I've neglected to do in this marriage? Could this action be a reaction to love withheld, not hearing her heart, putting too much pressure on her with kids, figuring out gifts, figuring out finances? Could her action be a reaction to me not loving my bride as Christ loved the church? I know some of you are just tuning in right now, and we've been in Ephesians 5, so I want you to go back, men, because some of you guys we got so many righteous dudes who want to do the right thing. And when the Spirit of God reaches in and goes, hey, something's got to change here, you want to respond. It's often that we look at two verses out of Ephesians 5. In fact, and someone mentioned this via text, and I want to highlight this. The interesting thing about wives submit to your own husbands as to the Lord, that word submit in the English is not in verse 22 in the original Greek language. You ready for this? That's true. It's not, that word is not there. You might say, well, who put it in? Some chauvinistic man? No. It's needed to be in there, but let me explain to you what the original Greek language says. If you back up to verse 21 of Ephesians 5, it says, submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. And it's talking about how we relate to each other in the body of Christ, men and women at large. Submit to one another. Mutual submission is a principle, yes, even in marriage. And then all Paul's saying is, because if you left that word out in the English, it would say wives, comma, to your own husbands. Well, that would make no sense. So the English translation is just reaffirming what Paul's saying in the Koine Greek. So he's saying, wives, submit to your own husbands. But make note of this. Mutual submission is a biblical thing in marriage. So any of this notion that submission goes one way is totally unbiblical. 100% not in the text. Mutual submission is in the text. So Paul just says, wives, to your own husbands, as the Lord. Submit to your own husbands, as the Lord. But the stakes are raised then for husbands. Husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So I'm really going after this here, guys, because it goes on to explain in verse 29, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it. So it's important for us. This is a good discussion. We don't have these around here a lot. But this whole notion, any dudes, listen to me. If your kind of your default has been, it says that wives are supposed to submit. Stop, time out. That's not what the scriptures say. You got to back up one verse. Mutual submission is there. And by the way, do I do that with my bride? Yes. That's what healthy biblical people do. We mutually submit to one another. We yield to one another. I have never, a lot of guys talk about the authority of headship. Headship is not about authority. It's about responsibility. This is a totally different thing, guys. If you're trying to pull rank, dude, you're so far away from where God wants you right now, it's not even funny.
I mean, we even talk about, Jesus says to his disciples, if any of you want to become the greatest, you must become the least. So if you want the authority,
and that applies to marriage,
I was going to say, if you want the authority, then you better be the biggest servant of all, because that's what being a leader in God's economy is.
So, men, and you might say, you might think right now, Carl, you don't know you don't know the woman I'm married to. Yeah, I do. I've been a pastor a long time. Yeah, I do. I know women can get wonky. I know they can get substitute gods in their hand. I know that they can get here's all I'm saying. If you're seeing actions toward you, I want you to consider first and foremost, because men are called to be initiators, women are responders. Yet the first question you must ask is there something that I'm doing or not doing, and this is a reaction to it? You say, Carl, that's hard. Heck yeah, it's hard, man. It's hard. You know what's hard? Everything in the natural man wants to have a 50-50 proposition. Meet me at the middle of the field, blah, blah. I get it. But here's the problem, dudes. We overestimate how far we've traveled on that field, and we underestimate how far she's traveled. And an initiating man doesn't measure yard markers in marriage. He goes humbly before God and goes, God, is there something that I've been doing here that is causing a reaction that I don't like? When you can humble yourself under God's mighty hand to ask that question, I can assure you, God will be faithful. And it's easy in your own mind. In the flesh, it's easy to go, yeah, I checked it, nothing. No, it's all on her. Slow the roll, guys. Give God 20 minutes. Give God 20 minutes. And then journal and listen to what God says. I'm glad we went after this.
Me too. I think it's a
Important
good
topic.
discussion.
Okay, coming up, man, why don't we get a guy that sold a few million books in here? And
Love and Respect. Have you heard of that one? Dr. Emerson Eggerichs coming up.
The gospel changes everything.
Where else am I going to find peace, joy, eternal life, not found in anyone else?
You're listening to Carl and Crew.
what a week we've had. Chivalry, what a hot topic. It's kind of a Middle Ages term, Knights of the Round Table, but you got honor, you got warrior for sure, but you got respect for women. And you know what, Allie? We're learning it. Chivalry still gets style points today, sister.
Yeah, maybe a Middle Ages word, but it's certainly not something that should stay there in terms of how it's lived out.
You got that right.
It's very much an everyday, today, right now thing. We need chivalrous men. Dr. Emerson Eggerichs, you would agree, author of Love and Respect. We need chivalrous men. That has not gone out of style.
Absolutely. I fully agree. And what's interesting, it's a man's impulse to use his strength on behalf of another. It's the desire to protect. It's the desire to provide. It's the desire to serve. That's instinctive. It doesn't mean that every man does that. But if you ask men, do you want to be an honorable man or a dishonorable man? Everyone will say they want to be an honorable man, and it manifests itself in these ways.
Why do some men battle with passivity, not engaging even with something that they know they really were designed to do and be?
Well, I think it's there, and I think all great men in relationship to other men can pull that out of them. Many men shut down because they feel that they've been dishonored, they've been disrespected, contempt, or disgust. I mean, it's like the guy that opens the door, and the woman said, I can open the door myself. Now, there are men that have made bad choices, and we won't defend every man who fails to do the honorable thing. But I think overall, for those men who have goodwill, it's there. The question then is, how do we bring it out? How do we motivate him to act, even though there are moments when someone says, I can open the door on my own?
You know, it's interesting when you look at, let's take just basic crime statistics. It is inescapable that males account for the vast majority of violent crimes that are committed, of murders that are committed, property crimes. For a lot of people, you are going to feel less safe sometimes around a man than you are. If I'm walking down the street, I usually don't feel unsafe because of a woman. It's usually a man that makes me feel unsafe. Why is that? I don't know that I've ever asked anyone this question,
that's a
but why
great
is
insight,
it
by the
that
way.
we often, when we see the worst things happening, why is it often at the hands of men?
Oh, that's an excellent observation and question, because men are lethal. We don't envision women being lethal. Women get angry, but we are lethal. And that's partly men withdraw in conflict because their heartbeats get to 99 beats per minute and they need to calm down physiologically. And that's actually the honorable thing to do, because he recognizes that proclivity within himself that he can escalate something out of control, particularly if he loses rationality. So it's actually a noble thing for him to pull back, because he has this characteristic within him. But yes, men are warriors. But that warrior instinct that leads to violence can also, remember, it's on the other side is the men out there who are stopping that guy. So the question is, overall around the world, we have a lot of honorable men who are stopping that individual. And that's why we need to honor men, because they're the ones that are going to stop that man.
Yeah. Emerson, so men innately, I mean, from creation, have this in their DNA. But there's something that's got to guide that and aim it like an arrow the right direction, Emerson. And it seems to me, apart from, and I'm going with an ideal situation, I know that every man can manifest good stuff because we're all image bearers, but that wholesome, righteous, aware, ready to be more than open up doors, but to lay down your life for a wife, that doesn't come to us naturally. That's a supernatural gift from God in its full-throated expression. How do we get there, Emerson?
I take the position that men who have goodwill are, as I say, and I do at our conference. So we've been doing the Love and Respect conference, a 2-day event. We average about 1,800 per conference. And I say this out loud. All things being equal, man and woman, 3 children in the house, and a murderer comes in and says, one of you must die. Who dies? Well, everybody shouts out. And the men, we do. I mean, men are prepared to die. Most of them know that they will die. They don't see this as anything other than unmanly to say, hey, honey, you come between me and the bear. They don't do that.
Emerson Eggerichs with us right now. He's the author of Love and Respect. I want to go after this a little bit more, though, because, yes, it's true that there are men that when push comes to shove, yes, but the real test of godly manhood isn't when push comes to shove. It's sacrificing and being chivalrous in the mundane moments. How is that cultivated, Emerson?
Well, I think this conversation we're having is so important because we need to remind men that they're not always going to be honored as honorable men, and they've got to do that very thing when no one gives any recognition, or even when there is a sense of disgust toward them having done the right thing, or they're being dismissed. And this is the challenge. But I think young men right now across this country, young men are kind of stepping up here a little bit, and they've heard these messages that they've got serious problems because they're male, because of their race, whatever the question might be that is being asked on the table out there, and the answer is you aren't a good man. I think boys are now in particular saying, I don't agree with that, and I'm going to be this honorable man. In fact, I asked Pat Riley, he had me come speak to the Miami Heat. He and I spent many hours together, also Coach Spo. I said, do you want to be honored? Do you want to receive honors, or do you want to be honorable? And immediately they said, we want to be honorable. And when we say honors or honored means you're applauded. Honors mean you receive some certificate or trophy. But in the deepest core of men, they want to be honorable men. And this is where we need an encouragement to keep pursuing that. It's there in you. God put it in you, just like he put love within the heart of a woman. I mean, you can't keep a woman from loving. She longs to love. So the question now is, why do we have this problem among men in the culture? And that's what you're asking, because we see the negative side, and we're kind of disheartened by that, and what's going to bring about a positive change. I'm more optimistic, actually.
Your book, Love and Respect, sold over 2 million copies, New York Times bestseller. You mentioned a little bit honor as a core need for men, love as a core need for women, respect. I'm assuming you're using honor and respect interchangeably, but maybe not. Dig a little deeper there. Why is respect such a core need for men?
Well, apparently God has designed it that way. Ephesians 5:33 commands the husband to love, and there's no agape love commanded of the wife in the marriage situation, because I think he put it within her nature to nurture, she loves to love at the level of intimacy. You have to wound a woman to get her to stop loving, but she is more natural at being disrespectful when she feels unloved. And no man doubts a woman's love, and she's commanded to put on respect. And when I unpack that, I'm thinking, well, apparently we have some inherent needs here, that she needs to be loved for who she is apart from her performance. He needs to be respected for who he is, created an image of God, apart from his performance. She needs to respectfully confront things that aren't respectable, just as he needs to lovingly bring up things that may not be lovable. And we don't know how to do that very well, but I believe it's a core need. And certainly the University of Washington studied 2,000 couples for 20 years, and they said the foundational ingredients for successful marriages are love and respect. And I've been unpacking that even deeper in my new book, Light Bulb Moments in Marriage.
Yeah, that's dynamite. Emerson, there's a notion out there that we go 50%, they go 50%, and we'll meet you at midfield and everything will be great. Here's the problem. There's no yard markers on this field of love and respect. That can be problematic because we overestimate how far we travel and we underestimate how far the other person's traveled. How do you fix that?
Well, partly, I think the Apostle Paul said, we do what we do as to the Lord, and that was based on Jesus, who said, you do what you do unto me. At the end of the day, I'm called to be a loving man unto Jesus Christ, whether Sarah responds or not. So it's not a matter of me keeping some measurement.
Yes.
And I have to be humble about it. I have to confess to her I failed. But most women are going to respond to a man who in good faith is doing the loving thing because he's made a decision to be that type of man, to do this unto Christ, and seeks forgiveness for when he failed. I mean, women are all over this. I mean, you talk about touch deeply. You talk about bragging rights among women. Do you know what he did yesterday? What? He apologized to me. He's really been trying. He is so sweet. I mean, it is men have so much power that they don't realize if they just consistently act as an honorable man doing this loving thing unto Christ, even if she's unlovable and disrespectful, that's the true test of honorability. Am I willing to do this, touching the heart of Christ beyond the shoulder of my spouse? And in Light Bulb Moments, I go deeper into that, helping men know how to do that when they don't want to do that.
Emerson, you just nailed our week. Men have so much power, and if we will but flex it, to be honorable men, Katie barred the door. We could see this country and this world turned upside down, Emerson. That's not an overstatement, is it, my man?
No, and some have said the essence of masculinity is initiation. The essence of femininity is response. So when I initiate rightly with Sarah, it's almost impossible for her to respond wrongly. It's not within her DNA to respond wrongly. She's looking for that initiation.
Dr. Emerson Eggerichs with us. The book is called Love and Respect. He mentioned his latest book, Light Bulb Moments in Marriage. Just text RESPECT to 800-555-7898. Text RESPECT to 800-555-7898.
It's Carl and Crew on Moody Radio.
So if you're like the average dad out there, you might be the one who catches and clips, but you get that little baby in your hand, and then the question is, now what do we do? And so it began. We got a guy in here that helps with the now what do we do. John Fuller, man. You've heard him, co-host of the daily popular Focus on the Family broadcast. And he's got a lot of other things on his resume, but right now we'll get him in here. John, what's a man to do when you've caught and you've clipped, and now what do you do, dude?
I think it's really awesome to have kids, and there is a lot that we have to learn on the fly. This is one of those on-the-job training situations where you can read all you want about how to do it, but until that little one is in your home or in your arms or in your bed with you at night, boy, there's just so much to learn. And the big news is that it's not rocket science. I think most dads would benefit from recognizing they just have to show up and be intentional, and their kids will probably do pretty well.
John Fuller, Vice President of the audio team at Focus on the Family. He is a media veteran, more than 30 years. He's also a father of 6. So give us some of your first-time dad mistakes. You willing to share some of those?
How about when my oldest was, I don't know, 3.5 years old, and he did something that 3-year-old boys do. He just did something, and I looked at him. I said, I was kind of angry. I said, "What were you thinking?" He just looked up at me through these big eyes, like I wasn't thinking anything. So first of all, just lighten up, Dad. I had to lighten up and let go of some things. I think letting go of expectations, I think rolling with the punches, I think leaning on some help every now and then is helpful. I wanted order in my home, and kids don't allow you to do that. They bring chaos, and that's a good thing if you can embrace it.
Yeah, so you look back, and obviously you wrote this book, First Time Dad, the stuff you really need to know. What are the top 2 in your mind's eye, John, that young men need to know?
Yeah, I think first, don't do this alone. Find a community of guys that you can learn from. One of the neatest things that I was able to experience as a younger dad was to find somebody that was about 8 to 10 years ahead of me in the journey. And I benchmark against him. We talked. He helped me really kind of right-size my thinking and gave me hope. And he showed me how to really enjoy kids at every stage. So that's the first. Don't go it alone. And then second, as I said earlier, show up and be intentional, because the years are going to go really quickly. Be home, be engaged, have fun. And if you invest now, when they're older, you'll have the joy of being around your kids, and they're going to be friends.
John Fuller with us right now. You know, it's an interesting dynamic for dads. I mean, you mentioned nobody really feels prepared, but I think a lot of times women can adjust, not across the board, but generally speaking, many women adjust to the role of motherhood sometimes more easily than dads adjust to the role of fatherhood. You know, they maybe didn't have great models or any models of fatherhood growing up. There's the feels like the technical skill gap. Like, I've never changed a diaper. I've never done this before. Speak to the dads who just feel like they were kind of unprepared, whether they're an expectant father or they're many years in. They feel like, I don't know that I was set up well for the job.
Yeah. So one of the genesis moments for writing this book was taking my kids to the park with my brother. He brought his kids, I brought my kids. We were watching them. We were on the playground stuff, playing with them, having fun. And we took a break and sat down. And this younger guy comes over. He had been watching us from one of the benches and evidently had a child out there. But he came up, he said, "You guys look like you're enjoying this. I don't even know how to enjoy being a dad.
Hmm.
What's that about? What can you tell me?" And so my heart goes out to those dads who are struggling, who might feel like, and I get it. There's no job performance review at home typically for being a dad. And so I think it is difficult for a lot of dads. We have to recognize that we're really first and foremost called to be husbands and then dads and then employees and then volunteers at church and then, maybe a golfing buddy. So the hobbies have to take a back seat. And the good news is if you can find time to enjoy the present, then it's going to be a much more enjoyable journey. I remember going home and my boys, when they were younger, had these little plastic animals, and we would set things up. I'd lay in the ground and we'd play animals, or we'd have these cardboard boxes that we would stack, and they would make the Dawn Treader because we were reading C.S. Lewis
Oh,
together.
yeah.
There are a lot of wonderful, rich moments of just showing up and playing, reading, talking. I tell you, one of the best things I did was just throw a kid or two in the back seat when I ran to Home Depot. That was not a big deal, but it was time, and it was casual time, and especially with boys, you got to do the kind of we're busy thing when you talk. You can't just sit down and say, "What are you thinking?" Because as I indicated earlier, they're not thinking much.
Yeah. It's interesting, John. I think we can pigeonhole kids based on male or female even, and I learned a good lesson when I found out early on that my daughter really loved to go with her dad to the lumberyard. She wanted to go pick out the wood with Dad. At first, I'm like, being born and raised in Alaska and building things with dudes, I'm like, "You really want to go?" And she's like, "Yeah." In fact, one of her greatest memories is being at a lumberyard with Dad. We got to be ready for things that we don't preconceive are going to plug and play. Sometimes it's different, isn't it, John?
It really is. And, the stereotypes kind of generally apply for a reason, but not always. And so, yeah, I've got two of my sons are pretty sensitive. They have big hearts, and we can get together and really go places that I wouldn't have expected when they were younger. And I've got a daughter who I describe as a little red sports car with the throttle stuck wide open. She just goes, man. So you got to be open to whatever that child is, however they're wired, however they're uniquely gifted. Not just say, "No, that's for boys" or "That's for girls." No, meet them where they're at.
Yeah, that's great. John Fuller, our guest right now. There's these moments that a dad gets where you get to say, "I'm sorry, I messed up." I think those get undersold. Those are of great value, aren't they, John?
Well, they are. I mean, they do two things. First, they reflect that you've been thinking about stuff and you're not just on autopilot doing things. You're evaluating, how am I doing in this relationship with this child, whether they're 3 or 7 or 14. And so that's first. It's good to be introspective, not necessarily to live there all the time, but it's good to be taking measure of how am I showing up. It also demonstrates a very powerful thing to your child, who probably at some point thinks that you do everything perfectly, or you think you do.
Yeah.
So for me, the power of the apology has been to demonstrate to my children, I know I mess up, and I want to show you how I think I can get past this. I hope we can get past this, because I'd like a redo. I'd like to say, "I'm sorry that I was so sharp with my words." I'd like to say, "I'm sorry I was so preoccupied with things at the moment." So give yourself permission to feel any shortcomings that you have, and seek the Lord for courage to express those to your children. I do want to do a caveat, and that is, the older I get, the more I realize, I could have done that differently. And so I did a little bit of an apology tour with my adult kids. And after about the second time with my son, I was expressing kind of I wish I would have when I was, a newer dad. He just looked at me and said, "Dad, you're fine. You did fine." And I take great comfort in that, because I think if anybody would remember my failures, it's my oldest. He's the one that we messed up with the most.
Yeah.
I was so uptight and wound up tight, and I practiced so much on him, if you will. And I think that there's a great lesson there.
Yeah.
Kids overlook our mistakes, especially if we give them an apology. They're going to move on in life so much healthier, and we will too.
You know, the ownership that you're talking about, the apology tour, it's refreshing. I'm sure you have heard about it's become a bit of an epidemic of estrangement between parents and their adult children. And a lot of it centers around maybe perceived shortcomings or mistakes that they feel adult children feel like their parents have made and haven't owned. Now, this is a different topic, so we won't go too far into the woods with it. But speak to the importance of being able to own things, even things that happened many, many years ago that could still be standing in the way of a healthy relationship with your adult children.
Yeah, my heart goes out to parents who are estranged from their kids. That's one of the top reasons that people call to talk to focus on the family counselors is raising adult kids, or not raising adult kids, but relating to adult kids. That's so hard when a child says, you did this, and so I'm never talking to you again, or I'm not letting you see the grandkids, or something like that. That's just got to be one of the biggest heartaches. So there has to be a balance here. Yes, we do make mistakes as parents. No, unless the mistake was intentional and ongoing, we're probably not scarring our kids for life. Most parents do the best they can with what they've got. No parent ever says, I'm going to mess up my kid for the rest of their life. Every parent wants to take care of their child well. And in those moments where we fail, look for God's grace. And boy, I just looked to Luke 15, the parable, that third parable Jesus talks about in Luke 15. The parable of, I call it the forgiving father. It's the prodigal son. It's the son who says, I wish you were dead. Give me my money now, and takes off and just destroys the relationship. But the father, he never stops looking for, longing for, and loving that son.
Yeah.
And as parents, we're called to love our kids. And if they don't accept it, that's really on them. That's their choice. And again, that's such a heartache. I cannot relate to that. We've had moments with our adult kids, but they're all in connection with us. Seek to stay connected. Keep the light on. Keep that front light on. Be the adult who looks after your child, prays for them, and seeks to repair the relationship. It might mean just sitting and listening quietly. But if you need help with that, get a counselor, get a pastor, get a friend, talk to somebody. But seek the relationship. It's on you, mom and dad, even if you've messed up. It's on you to seek the best of the relationship.
Amen. Couldn't be more spot on. He's written a book called First Time Dad, the stuff you really need to know. And for a lot of you dads or moms, you're like, yeah, this is one we got to get in the home. Text the word dad to 800-555-7898. One word dad to 800-555-7898.
We'll link you to the book, but also to the resources available. And there are many through Focus on the Family to help you strengthen those relationships. So just text DAD to 800-555-7898.
Celebrating the unstoppable gospel.
It's not that I've got to fill in these check boxes so he's okay with me, but it's that I get to stand close to him so that I can experience the life that he has for me.
You're listening to Carl and Crew.
What's hard about chivalry in our culture today? What's hard about it, guys?
Well, I mean, I think anything that requires self-sacrificing is always going to be hard. But I think the subtle thing that makes it hard is I think at times men can get confused, and I'm a lady, so I'm going to give you my perspective. But I can see how it would be confusing to know what women want, because there's a lot of cultural pressure to not do things, to not have bound gender roles, gendered language. And that cultural pressure is strong. So the idea that there would be certain things that men do and that women do, there's a lot of pushback there. And so I can see why for men it's confusing to go, okay, am I going to be offensive if I open a door here for, obviously for your wife, I think it's a little bit easier, but for this for should I help this woman who appears to be a little bit older with her groceries, or is that gonna offend her? So I think that's one of the things, is that it's less clear now what's the appropriate thing to do for the moment.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting that you say that, because I have had that thought. It's never held me back from doing industry standard stuff for chivalrous things, but I've had that thought. Here's what I want to say, though. As much as we have that thought, some of this stuff is, I think, Satan's plot to get us afraid of things that are not as existent as we might imagine. Let me give you my example. I have never one time had a woman basically tell me, I'm equal to you, you don't need to grab my door. Never once. And I've opened a lot of them, Allie. Really. Mm-hmm. I mean, all over the place.
Yeah.
In really secular kind of what you could see as, like, let's just shoot it straight. I've been in downtown Chicago, kind of the big corporate buildings where, there's a lot of, there would probably be a lot of people saying there's no difference except for a few minor things between men and women about what they can do, how they can aspire and all that. And they really champion that. And by the way, I do too. I love strong leaders and strong leader women. And I've always told both of our kids when we're raising them, go after your dreams. I didn't say it more to our son than to our daughter, ever, not ever. I do think there are some unique roles, especially with regard to motherhood. And our daughter, man, is doing a great job being a mom, but there's some basic constraints around biology that kind of change how things cook. But
sure.
But I digress. I have never had one woman come up to me, let's just get it straight out here, saying, you don't need to open my door. You don't need to wait for me. You don't need to pick up this suitcase for me because I'm equal to you, or even alluded to that. I never once. And I would venture to say I do this way more than the average guy, and I've never run into it. And maybe they were afraid to tell me what they thought.
No,
but I don't think so.
I think when you're an honorable man, I think that there's no pushback. I really do. I mean, I think that I'm glad that we are pushing back against the, if every woman has been in a space where you felt like, if you were in, could be a workplace setting, could be any number of places where you felt like as a woman you were being talked down to or overlooked. And which is totally different. But every woman's felt it. And that's true then, and it's true now.
Right.
Thankfully doesn't happen as much as it used to. But I think when it's clear when a man's intentions are to be honorable and to serve, as opposed to it being a power play of saying, let me take care of this because I don't think you can handle it.
Yeah, I'm sure. But if you're acting like that,
right, there's other issues going on.
That's idiocy.
Yeah.
It's like, here, let me help you out. You're dummy, you can't handle it or whatever. But I think most people would be shocked to know that never one time in my life has one of those people popped up when I'm doing just something that Dad taught me to do, where someone goes, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier this week where, if you give this concept to a young boy, they kind of immediately get it. The problem is in all honesty, right now with how culture is, if it's not taught by the parents, it's not taught. Like if you're not constantly having conversation.
Really?
Yeah, I really don't think that there's stuff in culture, in media that's like, hey, you need to be chivalrous. You need to open the door for a lady. You need to make sure that, lay your coat down, give them your coat, whatever. It's not that. I just don't think that's as taught as it was even to when I was a kid. It's not out there. So I don't think the concept is as easily received because it's not as easily accessible.
Well, some of these kids are getting it, though. It might be baked into some of our cultural fabric, because I've been stunned. I get stunned on both ways. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I get stunned at how bad we really are as a culture, and then I get stunned by, wow, we're still pretty good as a culture.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like, woo. So chivalry, my contention is chivalry still get style points. And survey says this week our Boom Crew listeners, for sure.
100%.
By the way, speaking of Boom Crew, oh my goodness. I went to listen to Riley Gaines yesterday. Guys, I met more Boom Crewers from across the who knows where, mainly all across Chicagoland, than you can imagine. And I'm going to say this right now. They are the most joy-filled people on the planet. They are just exceptional. But there's one thing that Riley said in her talk, Riley Gaines, and I wanted to share it with you. First off, what a humble gal. Told the whole story of this swim meet that went south. And if you don't know Riley Gaines and what went down with Leah Thomas and all that, I don't have time to catch you up. But wow. From the she was told, be quiet, do not say a thing. You carry the university's logo and you don't speak for us. So basically sit down and shut up. Talk about suppressing a woman's voice, by the way.
Yeah.
And she's at one point, she had 50 news organizations wanting to get something from her. And she waited. But everything that was being said wasn't the truth. She finished any photo finish with Leah Thomas, who's a dude. And they touched, photo finish, super die, you know this, you were a swim girl. Photo finish, like within, like, I think it's hundredths of a second or thousands or something.
Yeah, the decimal goes way
down.
Way deep. Mm-hmm.
So they finish exactly tied. They go backstage, and she's told this by, I don't know who it was, some big collegiate authority, said, listen, you guys had a photo finish. We're very sorry, but we're going to give this trophy to Leah. And they said, you can go ahead and take a picture with the trophy, but backstage, but up on the stage, we're going to give this to Leah. Now, you need to know something, guys. Riley Gaines is sharing this story with such humility and grace and class. And I'm like, wow. I didn't know this. And by the way, she's only 26 now, okay? Sometimes you see these people and you think they've been around forever. She must be 40. No, this just happened here just 5 years ago. And bless her heart, she said, I didn't want in this fight. I didn't want in this fight. I wanted to go be a dentist. She's top of her class, heading off to dentistry school. And now she finds herself in this thing. And, you know, the one thing that she said that I thought I needed to share with you men, she said, I've been a little bit sad by how many men are not championing the rights of women in sports more than they are. They're kind of letting it play out or hoping that the NCAA figures it out. And she said this, she says, it ain't going to figure it out, guys. And I thought going home, I thought, holy smokes. You know, where does this go? If you can take a trophy away from a woman because a man who's 6'4" with size 15 feet jumps in the pool alongside her, and he used to compete with men for 2 years at the collegiate level and finish like 400 to 500 nationally, and now he's number one with women. If you can take that away from women, very candidly, I'm not gonna go here to extremes, but you don't have to look far around the world to see women's rights in the absolute toilet, like non-existent. And although Jesus came so egalitarian, is it possible that by way of a little chipping away, we could see women utterly discounted in ways that are unimaginable right now? The answer is yes. It's called cultural decline. So I want to honor Riley Gaines and just tell you, men, this isn't about militant. It's about speaking up. And she says, by the way, it's so weird. I get called this militant person, and all I've done is go, excuse me, this isn't right. Excuse me, could I speak up for some other girls here? And so Riley Gaines, this is for you. I'm calling all men. Not to be a jerk, not to be this angry evangelical, but by all means, stand up for women. And especially at this sporting level, let's stand up and not, again, I really believe one of the problems with this argument, Allie, is that it's the way in which we communicate it. When you get all jerk and angry and you start castigating people, that seems to go nowhere. But when we stand up and go, you know what, dadgummit, this woman deserves a trophy. That dude should not be competing against her. Riley said it'd be great if more men stood up that way. So that's my thought on that one for Chivalry today. Those are my thoughts alone, but you ain't pushing me off that rock. Ain't happening.
You know, the interesting thing with the debate over women or men in women's sports is that at the highest level, it is already not allowed. You know, and so it's interesting that we are.
Okay, thank you for that, Allie.
And it won't be.
It will
so
never
the
be.
International Olympic Committee has already mandated that they're going to do a genetic test to ensure that biological women. So it's it's like when you get up to the top, you see what we really.
The acid test proves
exactly.
itself. Because we had those boxers, now they're saying, no, we can't have guys that have way too much testosterone smacking the doogies out of these girls.
Well, and no Olympic athlete who's trained for 4 years of their life for a 1 or 2 minute is not going to. It is not going to fly at the highest level because there's too much at stake.
Isn't it interesting how this stuff goes to? They go after the weaker of the pack,
the more vulnerable.
Vulnerable.
Let's do the experiment and have the middle school and the high school girls have to suffer, but at the Olympic level, absolutely not.
Yeah,
it's a pretty it's pretty backwards actually.
Yeah, it's really amazing, and what's amazing is, I think there should be more people at these highest levels. I mean, we got issues with girls that left women's soccer teams, would have never wanted to compete against a man, and now they're like all for it. So, but Allie's right. When you get to the highest levels and people that didn't used to compete but do compete, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I think we need to break it up here a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, we got on a long riff there, but sometimes you just got to do it.
Finding nuggets of truth in everyday life.
It's a metaphor.
It's just a metaphor, dude. That's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor. I know it's a metaphor.
It's time for Make It a Metaphor with Young Thunder.
All right. We're going to start getting you, the Boom Crew, involved in this starting next week. We're going to do it. But today, Allie's going to pitch a story to Jonathan, who has this uncanny way that we have learned of taking just fun, old-fashioned stories from everyday life and turning them into spiritual metaphors. Can he do it again? We'll find out.
We
Allie?
will find out. I got an email recently that was congratulating me that I was going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame at my college.
Wow.
As part of the women's volleyball team. Wow. I got a text message that same day from a former teammate like, hey, did you see? We're going to be in the Hall of Fame. Let me give you a little bit of the backstory. So I played 2 years of college volleyball. By the end of my second year, I had suffered an ankle injury. I was suffering from a high level of burnout. So I decided after 2 years, I was not going to continue. Well, that team that I decided not to continue to be a part of went on that season to win their conference and to qualify for the NCAA tournament.
Wow.
It was a bit of a pain point because I quit that team for good reason, cheered them on, was still good friends with many of them to this day. So when I got that notification and the text message, it was clear that everybody had forgotten that I was not a part of that championship run. That I actually left the team prior to the start of that season. So it brought up these interestingly complicated emotions. There was a big part of me that sort of wanted to rewrite history a little bit and rewrite myself back into this story that clearly everyone else had forgotten after this passage of time that, hey guys, remember, I didn't make that championship run with you. And so I thought about, should I go to the ceremony? Should I get myself into the Hall of Fame? I mean, my name was on the roster. But no, I emailed and said, hey, I know that I was in the media guide, I was on the roster, but actually I wasn't a part of the team, so I'm not going to participate in the Hall of Fame ceremony. Mm-hmm. Oh. But it was interesting, though, how it brought up for me this sort of, man, what if I could have been? Mm-hmm. This monumental celebration that I just missed out on. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, Jonathan, what is the metaphor that you can make out of this?
That's a great question and a great story. You know, I can understand that. It must have been hard to look at this team that you were once a part of getting recognized and looking back on your time there and saying, well, I didn't really get to be a part of that, so I can't share in the same celebration and same victory that they get to. And the verses that came to my mind were 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27. Do you not know that in a race all runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. And then this thing, every athlete exercises self-control in all things they do. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body to keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. I look at the part where he says they do not do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. We are a part of a greater team that sees at the end a greater victory and a greater celebration than the one you shared, albeit yours is extremely significant here on this earth. But at the end of the day, it's a perishable wreath. We, as the people of Christ, are running for an imperishable wreath. And we are a part of a team that at the end of the day, we know victory is coming our way. Sometimes it can get tiring. Sometimes we can experience burnout. We can experience some injuries along the way. And it can make us want to give up. I should just quit running the race altogether because I'm so tired. This race has dinged me up so much, I just want to be done. And some people walk away. But at the end of the day, we're all going to get a notification that this team has won and they're going to be recognized and there's going to be a great celebration for it. Don't be a part of the group that sees that notification and says, oh man, I remember when I was running with that team and I gave up. Don't be a part of the people who says, nah, I just left it and now I have to watch them celebrate from the outside and I don't get to be a part of it. The race dings, and there's some burnout included because it's a hard race. But the team does win at the end of this, and there is a celebration at the end of this. So persevere in the Holy Spirit and be a part of this team forever and ever.
I think the cool thing, thank you, Jonathan.
Make it a metaphor.
Yeah, make it a metaphor. I think the cool thing, too, is in the spiritual race that we're running, there's no amount of physicality that will qualify you or disqualify you.
Nope.
There's no amount of perceived setbacks that makes you unable to be part of the team. It's really a heart attitude almost more than it is anything else.
It is 100% that. I think Samuel, when he's looking at all of David's brothers and he sees the big strong ones, he says, the Lord doesn't look at the body, he doesn't look at the outward appearance, he looks at the heart.
Yeah, that's good, man. Make it a metaphor, Young Thunder.
Love it. Good job.
Woo! I'm back on that invite you got there, Allie. It's really something.
Your shot of hope to get you through the day.
You are so loved. God does not want you to stay in your past. And I want you to know and believe that today.
You're listening to Carl and Crew.
Well, one of the themes we want to constantly hit here with Carl and Crew is this reality. The world is much more hungry for good news than we give them credit for. Do you believe that, Allie?
Yes, and yet we have so much apprehension about sharing our faith with people.
And even the loudest and boldest among us can get weak in the knees at moments, but man, we got to get a vision for what God is doing as we just open, knowing there's God-fearing people providentially primed to respond to the gospel if we'll but share it. Barry McGuire, this guy's a ball of fire. He's with us right now. Barry, we have sold short people's willingness to hear the good news, haven't we, my man?
The church has really stopped us from sharing our faith by promoting all the wrong things, and not the least being, blessed are those who are persecuted. So we have this perception that it's so hard, and I can tell you right now, it has never been easier. I mean, the entire world is up in the air and worried and fearful and wondering where God is. And the Bible says, they'll know you're my disciple by your love. And so here's the best part. The Holy Spirit gives you the words to say, and he gives us that promise in Luke 12:12. That's intimacy with God. There's nothing better than that.
Barry McGuire with us, founder and president of Ignite America. It's a ministry focused on getting Christians to ignite America with revival, one person at a time. You have Ignite Your Life television with a clear message that sharing your faith at every opportunity turns everyday life into an adventure. Tell us about one of your most recent adventures sharing your faith.
Oh, my goodness, they haven't continued. I was just at the airport and checking in, Southwest representative, and he got so intrigued. He says, can I walk you to your gate? There's a lot of people behind me in line. I said, what? He says, can I walk you to your gate? I went, well, sure. We walked and we started sharing scripture as fast as we could all the way up to the TSA. At that point, I said, can I pray for you? He says, yes. So here we are praying together, and a Holy Ghost prayer, God came upon me. At the end, he said, I took a picture of your ticket. I said, why did you do that? He says, Mr. McGuire, I'm going to remember this conversation for the rest of my life.
Barry McGuire, our guest right now. Barry, how can people get started? I mean, because most people listen right now, frankly, can't even join into the joy of this, and they might feel some condemnation, a little bit of shame, like, man, I don't get out there and share with people at ticket counters and the like. How can we get a toe in the water here?
Well, first off, understand that fear comes from Satan. If you're living in fear, you're telling God, I don't trust you. You know, and if you're living in fear, you can't share your faith because you're conflicted. In fact, in James 1, he says, if you're double-minded with fear, then don't expect me to answer your prayers. So everything's going south. But when you step in and understand that everybody needs love, and you can love on people, and that ignites your life. And that's why I wrote this book, Ignite Your Life, because that's exactly what it is. You want to have your life ignited? You want to live without fear? You want to live every day knowing God's directing your steps, giving you joy every day? Romans 8:28, he says, I'll make everything in your life work together for good when you love me and you live for my purpose, not your purpose. What's his purpose? His purpose is to seek and save the lost. And when you do that, the doors of heaven open up, because when you're doing it, your faith explodes and you're in the Bible. That's the fun of being a Christian.
Yeah. Barry McGuire, you've painted such a beautiful picture of the joy that can enter your life when you live like this. Barry is the founder and president of Ignite America. Just text Ignite to 800-555-7898. Ignite to 800-555-7898.